video start, we're in the middle of nowhere. We're on the side of a highway just outside of Potosi, Wisconsin. It's like County Road N or something. I've become very familiar with this piece of road. We'll get into that in a minute. The reason the video is going is because I just picked up an Argo. I'm not very excited anymore because halfway through my trip home, something catastrophic is going on with the power stroke. So you'll see here we have oil all over the tires. Not ideal. There's a rather large puddle of oil under the motor. Not ideal. And we have a bunch of oil all over this thing. I don't know what happened yet. I am assuming it's got a blown turbo. I hope that's it. Or better, I don't know. I think some guy's pulling over to help me, maybe. I'll check back in. Well, there goes the Argo in my trailer, thanks to a really, really good neighbor. Now we wait for the tow truck. Alrighty, it's been a few days. My truck being broken down mostly caused me not to be able to get out here and do this video earlier. But what is this thing? It's an Argo. So this is the much more well-known version of my ATEX 6x6. It's also a lot newer. I think this thing's probably early 2000s. The ATEX is early 70s. So 30 years newer, and it looks nearly identical in shape and form. So I picked this thing up. I wasn't planning on buying one of these, but it popped up for dirt cheap. And there's several reasons for that, but I think I got a good enough deal. I am comfortable. I could part it out if I have to, but I hope not to. So, like I said, I think this thing's early 2000s Argo Vanguard 6-wheeler, because they made 6-wheelers and 8-wheelers. I think they were called two different things. I've never even seen one of these up close in person. They're still sold new. They're pretty popular, but it's kind of a basket case, as you can see. The motor's not supposed to sit at a 25-degree angle like that. It's supposed to be bolted down. The biggest problem, as you can probably tell, is all the corrosion. That's right, this baby was full of water at one point. So the story goes, the guy I bought it from, it was his uncle's brother's goldfish's dad's machine. That fella had a lot of money and bought it used, and it needed a lot of work. I have a bunch of paperwork for it in my truck we'll look through later. But one of the receipts in there is for a $4,500 transmission rebuild and a little bit of other work. So someone dumped a bunch of money into this thing years ago. That fella died, and now this machine sat outside for a few years. And kind of a double-sided coin here. These things float, but if left outside uncovered, they also fill up with water. So this one sat with a considerable amount of water in it for quite some time, as you can tell by all the rust and yeah. So that's when the guy I got it from bought it. He bought it, drained all the water out of it, started to work on it, and then gave up. So he basically just took it apart. What I know about it so far is that it's missing the clutch weights. That was really the only thing he told me. I know the transmission shifts. The motor moves at least a little bit. It might be a little seized up. I was told the motors did run, but it ran like crap several years ago. What else do I know about it? I was told it has new tires several years ago, which they do look to be in rather good shape until you look down there. So they're not brand new. They're brand new tread-wise. They still have their nipples on them, but they've definitely sat around. So throw some tubes in these front two and we should be good. What else? It's got a winch. I don't know what. Oh, it's a super winch. I would assume 2,500 pound maybe. It is a Briggs Vanguard, 16 horsepower. At least I think it's a Vanguard. Electric start and pull start. I don't know how many speed transmissions these have. I don't know if they're just forward and reverse like the Atex, or they have an actual transmission. This one is mechanical brakes. I guess there was mechanical brakes ones and hydraulic brakes. I'd almost rather a mechanical brake unit just because, I don't know. It's all mechanical. It's kind of nice. He said the transmission doesn't have any oil in it currently because he drained all the water out of it. All the chains seem to be there. So we are missing the floorboard and the dash right now, but they are both back here, so I'm told. That guy and this guy, I believe. We also have the, what I think is the air intake, the bottom of the air intake. Looks like you have seating space back here for 2 people. Oh, we got a USB-C charger. I'll pocket that. What else? We have seating for 2 up front here, maybe 3 if they're skinny. A under-seat compartment and a fuel tank. A muffler, air filter, and looks like the clutch cover. And maybe the carburetor adapter. So, this thing is, I don't know. I think it's savable. We'll dig into the motor next, and that'll kind of be the true test of which direction I'm going to go with this thing. It is complete enough that I think it's worth putting together, but it's definitely going to need some work. It does have this super cool winch mount. Never thought about that. If you mount a winch on them, you got to have some pretty crazy supporting brackets. In theory, it floats if it held water, so that's good. Hopefully the hull's in good shape. I bought this thing in the dark, so I'm pretty much looking at it for the first time with you guys. Ooh, it does have a hitch too. That's nice. Yeah. I don't know. It also did come with tracks too. Let's go look at those. Yeah, I already hid these away behind the garage, but they are plastic, just track links. They are actually Argo brand, and we have a set for each side, so hopefully they're complete. I think we're only missing the little pin that holds them together, and then they would go right on is my idea. But we got a long way to go before we can put them on. Man, this thing is not light. Whew. All right, so here is the Briggs & Stratton Vanguard 16 horsepower out of the Argo. Just about threw my back out trying to get it out of there. Use as many jerking motions as possible. Anyway, I'm pretty sure this is the original engine. This is what these came with, I believe. It looks mostly complete. I found most of the air filter assembly floating around in there. I think I'm missing a top cap, but that's later's issue. So we have a pull start on the front, which is nice. We have a 2-year warranty. Check and see if that's still in. It's complete until we get to the clutch, it looks like. There's some missing bolts here too, but so our clutch, I think, is missing its weights. I don't know what else. I'm not super familiar with clutches, but I'm not worried about that today. We have a header on it. Oil filter's banged up, but it's still there. You can just see the evidence of all the rust on this thing. It's not particularly rusty itself. It's just got that rust color to it. So, the biggest problem, it's not excited to turn over. I'm not going to try and force it. So let's pull these plugs and see if there's anything down in it that we need to worry about. What are we thinking? Signs of water damage? That's my guess. Not bad, a little rich. You can see the outside of the plug definitely rusted up. All right, what's behind door number 2? About the same condition. Looks like the threads got hot. All right, let's go ahead and squirt a little bit of oil down in the cylinders in case it hasn't seen anything in a while. I did pull a dipstick earlier on this thing. I mean, the oil doesn't look bad. It doesn't look milky or way over full. Do an actual check. Yeah, right where it should be. It smells a little bit like fuel, but I don't see any water in there. We are missing our electric start. That kind of stinks. All right, let's get some lube. Now, according to the guy I bought it from, it doesn't sound like it sat long enough to seize up from time. If this thing's seized up, it must be blown up. Let's try a little pull. Nope, it is tight. That really is annoying to hear. I'm gonna grab a little pipe wrench. It seemed like when I bought the thing, I did twist it over a little bit. So let's go the other way and see if we can get a part of a revolution. All right, I got my favorite pipe wrench here. All right, so that was a little bit of a turn, maybe a quarter. Huh. Sounds like the flywheel might be hitting something. Oh, hell, there's a problem. The clutch is broken. Can you see that? I don't think you can. Let's zoom in there. Well, good news is it spins over. I wonder if that clutch, if that piece was getting hung up on something. There we go. Yeah, I bet this was getting caught on something. Maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong. Yeah. Okay, well, whatever it was just kind of freed itself up. All right, well, yeah, so we got compression here. What about over on this cylinder? Yeah, we got compression on both cylinders. Okay, that's good. My brother had a big V-twin like this on a leaf vacuum, and it broke a rod. It sounded kind of similar when you would crank it over, I remember. Hope that's just the clutch hitting stuff, though. I don't know. All right, something still sounds wrong over here. Let's pop the valve cover. Oh. Try to avoid destroying a glass kit. Good. Are we at top dead center? I can't tell. Piston's dark. All right, let's spin it over now. Everything there is working as it should. All right, we got that valve cover plopped back on. I'm not sure what the hell that noise is. As I struggle to figure it out, we might as well keep moving forward. Let's see if we have any spark. Heck yeah, I can see it from here. All right, well, that's good. I was curious on how these engines were wired up. I figured since they were pull start, they must be able to run remotely, you know, no input from a battery or anything, so that's good. I also figured the stator might be crusted up with the condition of this thing. Let's pop the plugs back in it and hit it with a Scotia ether and see what happens. All right, we got it clamped down on either end here. We're gonna put just a tiny bit of ether in it. See what happens, I guess. It does have oil. Put the plugs back in tight. Wow, this thing's got a lot of compression. That was relatively easy. Sounds like it was running on some fuel in the carb for a second. I was worried it wasn't going to shut off. All right. Well, that's really promising. Good bit of smoke, but it was the first start and we'd had a ton of oil in the cylinder. So maybe I'll see if I can scrounge up a temporary tank or something. Maybe just fill this carb bowl up. Let it run for a minute and see if we hear anything real bad before we go installing this thing back in the Argo. All right, we stole the Coots tank, which is actually my temporary tank. We're gonna run some fuel into it. Got it clamped down even tighter than before because I really don't want this thing falling off the table. Should be enough to get it started. Let's see if it'll fire. All right, nice. There we go. Well, I didn't see any smoke. Did you guys? I assume I was running on fuel. Run it one more time and see if we can't throttle it up a little bit. Sweet. I haven't been around one of these in a while. I forgot how badass they sound. Awesome. All right, I'm going to call that a good runner. I didn't hear that noise we were hearing when we pulled over. The more I think about it, the more that could be a compression release or something. I'm not sure, but I'm not concerned about it with how this thing just ran. So before we put it back in, we will drain the oil, throw a filter on it, because apparently these are not very easy to service in the machines. We might also pull this carb apart and just see. I think this is a Chinese replica. There's definitely signs of this carb being off here recently. There's some goop on the bottom, so someone has had this thing out of here. These are kind of a treat to get out to rebuild them, so the easiest thing is just to pull the top hat off, and you can at least do a halfway job of cleaning it. Awesome. Yeah, I'm pumped. I thought this thing might be trash, but sounded pretty good. Cool. I didn't expect that to be that easy. I apologize if I'm a little flabbergasted. So with the engine running and this thing showing signs of a possibility of going back together and working, we decided while it was a nice warm day, weirdly warm for a December day in Iowa, that we'd go ahead and pressure wash this thing in and out and try and get it as cleaned up as possible. All right, let's see if we can get this rust goop out of here. Oh yeah, comes out pretty good. I'm covered in gobbledygook of all sorts. But the little old Argo here is shaping up to be a pretty good looking machine, I think. I'm pleasantly surprised with how well this thing cleaned up and what I found underneath all the sludge. So the outside I didn't focus much on at all. I don't think there's any changes to it. But while we had it up in the air, I did get a good look underneath, and I don't see any cracks or structural damage at all, which is awesome. The only damage I really see on the body is superficial stuff like this that doesn't really matter. The paint's not even really that faded, which is nice. Getting inside here, we got a good few centimeters of gook out of the bottom of this thing. There's a lot of mud in here. We got a good bit of the rust color off. There's still plenty of it hiding, which I would love to clean up. I think I will probably go at this thing one more time tomorrow with some more degreaser and a scrub brush and try and get all that evidence of stuff out of there. The transmission definitely seems like it was painted up. I believe that it was probably pulled out of here and rebuilt. We still have to dig into that and see what condition that thing is inside, but it does shift, which is good. Oh, I didn't realize that I had dipstick. The fella I bought it from said that the trans was drained, so. Anyway, all the chains, sprockets, shafts, although a little crusty, seem perfectly usable, I think. Throw a bunch of grease and everything and a bunch of chain lube on all the chains, and I believe that it'll be okay. This thing is remarkably stouter than the Atex. We got double chain, double chain, double chain, gigantic single chain, compared to our little Atex here, which we've done quite a few videos on. This thing has single 40 series chain, which is smaller than any chain on the Argo. So it works here, so this must be even better. Funny, this is a 16 horsepower. The 300cc two-stroke in this is allegedly 20, so kind of funny how heavy this thing's built for a lower horsepower motor. But anyway, so we covered the chains, axles, all that looks good. The floor cleaned up pretty good. All of our brake system here seems to be intact and working. One thing I found kind of funny and cool, we have an old Mack key pendant here from Mack Sales of Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, and the original Argo key. So some man of class owned this before me. We got a choke, which still functions, a twist throttle, which still functions. I don't know what the hell this guy runs. I'll have to dig into that later. All the wiring is up under here. We have a fuse panel, which is probably less than happy about our washing. Starter solenoid, winch solenoids, that's all there, intact. Fuel tank, I don't know anything about the quality of fuel or what's in it or what have you. All of our chain tensioners seem to be in good shape, not worn down. I don't believe this thing's very high hours. Our secondary clutch, while crusty, I think should function. We do have an hour meter over here. I don't think I showed you guys that before. It's reporting just over 500 hours. There's also our VIN number in case anyone was curious. I did do some poking around on a forum. This is a 1999. What else? Yeah, everything back here looks good. So I have high hopes for this thing. I originally kind of thought this might be a parts machine or a big deal to bring it back, but I am really happy with the kind of shape I'm seeing these things in. So that's probably the end of the work we're going to do on this thing for a little while. There'll still be more to this video, of course, but I just wanted to take advantage of this day and, with being so nice, get everything washed out of here. But there are several things in line ahead of it for work. Our Atex needs work. We want to get the old Honda here finished. Plenty of other things. So I'll see you guys in a few weeks, I guess. Well, a few weeks actually turned into a few months. I think it was about 3 months that this thing sat behind my garage here and kind of waited for me to get some time to work on it. And we finally decided to go ahead and move forward. Well, we shove it over off the jack first. So the first order of business was pulling off all the tires that had leaked down over time, which ended up being 4 of them. And we used my little arbor press trick here. I love using this thing for small tires. Works really well for debeating them. And these tires are pretty new, as I said earlier in the video. So we ended up just throwing some tubes in them. And it really went pretty well. For 4 tubes, I didn't pop a single one, which is impressive. Well, impressive for me, at least. I don't know about the average Joe. Looks a lot better, doesn't it? So 4 tubes like that, I'm willing to bet at least one of them ends up being a leaker. So we'll just have to wait and see. No reason to try and check it today. We'll just see what goes flat overnight, and then we'll pull that tire off. I do have 1 or 2 more tube extra. Sweet. You might be wondering what's in this box. And I'm wondering too, because I spent the same amount of money that I spent on the Argo itself on this one piece that we need to put this thing together. So this is a brand new Argo Vanguard 2 127-72 primary clutch. I bought it on Fleabay from Kruger's Repair, which is in Cornell, Wisconsin. I paid $475 for this thing. And it was the cheapest one I could find. The only other one I could find was up in Alaska for $875 at a dealership. So it took me a couple months to swallow that $475. Actually, it was $500, and I lowballed the crap out of them at like $350. And we went back and forth. I only ever got them down to $25. So anyway, we've got it here now. I hope it's the right one. According to my manual, it is, so I see no issues. We're gonna smack it a few times with the dead blow that's looking more dead than blow. I think I need to sand the bore of this thing. All right, we got this like $15 bolt that I should have spent $15 on, but it's a fine thread and I needed a specific length. That tells us we need to keep going. So it's been about 2 weeks and it's finally thawing out. It's supposed to be in the 40s all week. So I think I can finally get this thing into the garage. The only problem is now it's really muddy. So both the mini Jeep or the Coot are just gonna absolutely destroy my yard if I try and use them to yank this thing. So I think we're gonna have to go old school and use my 2 feet and my 2 arms to push it. That's gonna be a real treat. That was what I tried first. All right, so I had to go get my stronger half. Oh, you got it.
I think I could. Like, a foot. Is it parking like that? It's so slippery.
Yeah, that's the problem. All right, we have this engine hoisted onto the table for the 5th time now that I have the Argo around front, which I did in fact get it around front finally with Madeline's help. But before I drop this thing in, now that we have our clutch on, I do want to check that our carburetor, see what kind of condition that's in, see if it needs to be cleaned, so I could do it now instead of bending over trying to work out of a bathtub of an Argo. So place your bets. We did have this thing running earlier, as you guys saw. That was months ago for me, but probably minutes ago for you guys. I might have actually done this earlier, I don't remember. But so far, everything's looking good, it looks like. Yeah, gasket looks to be in really nice shape. Yeah, I'm not going to bother cleaning that. I don't see any... Well, I did just knock the needle. I'll show you guys. But I don't see any gunk in there at all. Sweet. All right, since our carb looks good, I'm going to go ahead and fire it up. I haven't heard this thing in months. I know you heard it minutes ago. I can check this bolt one more time. Okay, that's nice and tight. We've got a pump set up with some fuel to it, and it's clamped to the table. But I just want to fire it up to get it nice and warm so we can change the oil a little quicker. All right, well, I guess it's because there's no belt in there. That's why that thing shot closed or opened like that. But I wasn't expecting that. Hopefully it's just because there's no belt. Well, so far the oil looks pretty good. So with the engine oil changed and this thing ready to get dropped into the Argo, I decided to go ahead and try and scrub up the engine to make it look a little better, which didn't go too hot since I didn't have my pressure washer out. All right, we got the engine, I don't know, as clean as we can get it. It's still too cold to run my pressure washer. At least the tins and stuff all look a lot nicer. So I think we're all prepped. I got my giant spotlight out here Madeline gave to me. I think we're all prepped to go ahead and throw our motor down in the hole and get it bolted up and get the belt set on. So let's go ahead and do that. Goddamn heavy motor around. My back wasn't thrown out from pushing this thing from the backyard. It is now. Let me grab the belt and get that set in there. All right, it was quite a fight. I don't know why I keep buying amphibious machines. The Coot, the Atex, and this thing all suck to work on the motors in. You're like bent over. It just sucks, but it's enough complaining. Let's move on to, we have to get the motor all the way bolted in. I topped it up with fresh oil, so we're good there. And there should be some fuel left in the carb, so we need to replace this fuel line, and I'm missing a pump. But I kind of want to see if the transmission works tonight before I call it a night. So we've got it stuck in neutral right now. I think I will, it should be in neutral. I hope it's in neutral. If not, I'm going to get pinned between my truck and it. But we're going to go ahead and fire it up and just see what it does. All right, so the thing does run. Runs enough to run over my foot. I mean, shoot, what more can I ask for? It goes forward and reverse. Yeah, sweet. Okay, so next we need to hook up a fuel line. So it runs all the way around there. Back to this tank. We had to undo this little tray and check out all this stuff. Let me get a better light. All kinds of materials. So I guess it's got a pickup tube. We're gonna have to be extremely careful. That looks like a plastic nipple. Yeah, you have to be extremely careful there. I do not want to ruin this tank by accident. Okay, well, it's pretty dark. It's Sunday night. I've got work tomorrow. Before we can really take this thing for a drive, we gotta hook up the throttle, hook up the fuel. I need to find a pulse pump for it. Should be pretty easy. Kill switch would be ideal. Oil for the transmission. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. But hopefully we can start knocking those things off the list. Just kidding. Same night, we rearranged the boat so we could just barely squeeze this thing in here because it looks like it's going to be kind of rainy all week. I'm back out in the garage, jeans and crocking it. And we're just kind of playing with the parts that I have. So I've got this random bucket of bolts that I found floating around in the tub of this thing when I bought it. And I'm just kind of going through what we have, what we're missing, trying to make a game plan. I know we're missing a fuel pump and the top cover to the air filter. We have the base, we have the little mount, we have the filter, the top. We're just missing the aesthetic top cover. Our muffler is on there. We just need two little springs. Oh, something really frustrating. So I hate putting together other people's basket cases. I seem to always buy them. You can really get good deals on basket cases. just of all kinds of different things. Trucks, cars, Argos, skid steers, whatever. Anyway, you just run into annoying stuff like this. Like the little throttle plate guys are gone. That's so infuriating. They're like 10 cents, but just to have to wait. Looks like Amazon can't get me those for like a week. So I'd have to wait just for those little throttle retainers. Is super frustrating. They probably just chucked them over their shoulder when they undid the cables. So, but overall, really, we're not missing that much. The biggest thing looks like that housing cover, also the starter. But thankfully, we can pull start this thing for now. That's going to get old quick. I will install a starter before I'm done with this thing. So I am going to wait a couple days for some parts. And in the meantime, I did run our new fuel line back here, tucked up under that, which is really tough to get the line under there. And then it runs all the way up here, sneaks right there, and it'll hook onto that pump. And we'll get a new filter. So, all right, we're deep in the parts hoard right now. Weed eaters, Polaris, ATV front end parts, and the GoPed. But most importantly, there's a little 14 horsepower Briggs down there. What did it have? 2 of these little babies. Sweet. Saved me 20 bucks. That engine was even free. That was the video probably about a year and a half ago. Oh no, the crock. Oh, hold on. It's been an atrocity. Yeah, I forgot this ratchet's locked up. That doesn't fit on there anymore. All right, well, they're tight enough. Sweet, so we got those 2 functioning again. Sweet. So we got the rest of our parts in the mail. We got our genuine fuel pump, some new filters, which I think might be leaking, possibly. Kind of just guesstimated. This is not actually a genuine fuel pump. It's Chinese as hell. So I just kind of had to guess because there's no marks on what line did what. But I pulled it over a few times and we got some fuel up to it. So I think we're good there. So where do I want to go next? Oh, I don't think I showed this on camera. But I discovered the most frustrating thing I've ever seen in a basket case. So the other night, since I knew I was waiting on parts, I wanted to go ahead and pull the drain plug on the transmission, just make sure there's nothing in there, get that all prepped and ready for my new fluid that was coming in the mail. And lo and behold, the frickin' drain plug is missing. Guy pulled that out and lost it. $20 later on, I think it was Amazon. It's a 3/8 18, I think. Seems like it fits in there pretty good. It's got a magnet. So I was kind of tossing around the idea of running like ATF in this thing. I was told it had water in it at one point. The fluid I spent $8 on Amazon and got the exact high-poi GL5 gear oil I needed. So at that rate, I'll just run that through it for a little while and then drain it out after the first ride and see how it goes. So we're going to go ahead and plug this little fella in, top it off, and see if we have any leaks. All right, the gloop of choice today is this Amali MP High-Poi GL5 80W90. That's what the manual calls for. Which, let me tell you, it is really nice to have a manual for a machine. I don't usually have that liberty, but we got it this time. That's the one good thing that came with this machine. Now the tramme's full. I double-checked my engine oil and threw some springs on the muffler. And I have noticed the engine looks a little cattywampus, so we'll probably fix that. I don't know if you can really tell. No, I'm not sure how that happened. We'll fix that, and then I think we need to go ahead and grease up all the chains and just check that over. It also has gotten a little colder today, so we got some ice going on again, but doesn't look like it's holding onto the chains, so we should be okay. So I didn't really talk about it well in this video, but I tried to work on this thing earlier in the winter and had a rough time. Since I had left some water in the bottom of this thing after I washed it out, it actually froze in place and froze all around all the chains, and I was unable to pull this thing. But all's well now that it's warmed up. All right, we greased the heck out of everything, so now we're going to go back and chain lube everything that we can get some too. front here. Shouldn't have just got that on that brake disc, but that's the way she goes. Well, it took more than a can of lube, but we got a good coat on every chain, I believe. I also, off camera, hooked up the wiring, which is only 2 little wires down there. So, in theory, our kill switch should work now, and our charging, even though our battery is long gone. I should probably pay attention to those cables, make sure they don't short out. We got our floorboards popped in. I got to throw the seat down and then hopefully get this thing fired up. Try and get something down the vent. Now it's flooded. I think it's picking up fuel now. Our springs for our muffler are not strong enough to blow it right off. Alright, before it gets too hot, I'm going to see if I can kind of fix that muffler a little better. So it sounds like a Harley. And I also forgot I have to tighten up this shield. And then we'll take her for a spin. Alright, we got our exhaust all figured out here. Just some old MIG wire. Temporary. We got to push that in the yard. Let's see if it'll go for a spin now. I lowered the idle, but it's still not. There we go. So this one's different than the Atex. You pull this. Brake to steer instead of push like the clutch setup. Yard. Let's try reverse. All right, well, the little guy seems pretty happy. It's smoking some, but it's more like a... See how it's just smoking off the outside of the muffler? Like it's burning crap off there. I don't think the engine itself is smoking. It doesn't smell like oil burning. The engine's a hair lazy when you twist the throttle. I don't know, maybe it's partially because we're missing the top cap. It's getting way more air than usual. Nah, maybe. I don't know. The carb looked pretty clean. Maybe it needs a little bit of tuning, but the thing runs and drives great. I don't hear any bad driveline noises. Transmission shift's fine. The clutch seems to work good. The belt's fine. It's faster than I thought. I thought the Argos were slow. I don't know. Like the Atex is fast, but that's a two-stroke old school one. This one seems almost just as quick. And yeah, that's sweet. Our tires seem to do pretty good, although they do tear up the yard, of course. Sweet. All right, well, I think we're going to wrap up this video here. This is one of my little more long-term videos. Let's go ahead and throw the hood on it first, make it look good. There we go. This thing looks a little bit like a frog, but a really cool frog. So, pretty cool video today. It took about 4 or 5 months in total from picking this thing up in Wisconsin and breaking down in the Ford, which is back in action, thankfully. Ended up being a high pressure oil pump line, so I replaced both of those. I did some fuel lines, transmission lines. First time in 5 years, 50,000 miles with this truck that it's let me down, so I can't complain, really. I mean, I can, but I'm not going to. But it's back in action, so ready to go save some more obscure little units like this guy. So with that being said, we picked this thing up in Wisconsin, saved it from becoming a parts machine, and it seems to run and work fine. I'm glad I saved it. Took a significant amount of money in parts, especially that clutch and some other miscellaneous stuff, but it really wasn't that bad. So in the next episode, we are going to go ahead and find an electric start for it, see if the charging system works, put a battery in it, check out all the wiring. I want to get this winch working, and we'll probably test fit the tracks just to see what it looks like. But it's rapidly becoming spring here in Iowa. It's March 1st today, so it'll tracks would be kind of useless in the summertime, I think. They're more winter, or if I'm in some deep marsh, and I don't really have anywhere like that to test this thing, sadly. So, but in the next video, we will take it down to Hanson Hollows on the tires and take it for a proper spin and see what this thing's good for. See how it measures up maybe to the Coot and the Atex. I don't know. So thank you guys for watching. Let me know if you like this kind of content with these small, obscure machines, trying to save them, because I certainly enjoy making them. So if you guys would like to support the channel in any way, liking, commenting, subscribing all helps me out a lot. And I will see you guys on the next one.